Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, The Wealthy Mindset. It's yours truly, Money Making Mitch. And as usual, guys, this is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence and research. Yes, I'm doing a second video today. And the reason for that is I came about a little clip I found on YouTube. And I wanted you guys to hear what he used to be the Greek finance minister, and he goes all over the world and do speeches, had to say about the Chinese EV industry. But before I show that clip, I also wanted to talk about the ET9. The ET9, as we all know, sold 999. They were sold out of their limited edition ET9 EVs on the very first day. And at $118,000, it generated $117,882,000. Yummy for the tummy. Now, why do I invest into China? And why did I know, and do I know, that the Chinese EV industry is leaps and bounds and light years ahead of America and the West and will continue to be that way? Take a look at this clip and then we shall continue.
There's no doubt that not only is innovation and a scientific revolution in production necessary for a country like China, for any country for that matter, but moreover, China has been remarkably successful. The electric vehicle market is a miracle. Never before has a country managed, using its own resources, to essentially mature a new sector like electric vehicles within 5 years, which is what has happened in the case of China. While Donald Trump and Ursula von der Leyen are desperately trying to stem the floods of high-quality, inexpensive Chinese electric vehicles into Europe and the United States, using rather unconvincing arguments about state aid and about dumping. The reality is that these electric vehicles are the result of a vertically integrated supply chain, which incorporates not only materials, human labor, technical expertise, but also remarkable new innovations. So China needs to be complimented on this, and I do compliment China and Chinese engineers and companies on this. At the same time, when you have this spurt of productivity and this spurt of innovation, you need to ensure that you do not become a hostage to the inimical responses to these exports going to the United States and to Europe by European and American bureaucrats and politicians. This is why it's important to be able to consume within China a large part of the output of this remarkable, technologically innovative industrial sector.
All right, guys, welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed that clip. And it put things into perspective. But before we go any further, all I ask is for you guys to hit that thumbs up, because it does take a lot of time and energy to do these videos and the editing. So I'm going to show another clip. This is a short video of clips, but I'm going to show another clip, and it's going to show where the ex-CEO of Volkswagen, when he said it was impossible, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. How could they have made this? Take a look at the clip, guys, and then we shall continue.
Hello， 安娜，
周末愉快。
周末愉快，谢谢成为我们的叫首席体验官。
首席体验官最高级了，驾乘体验，其实乘的体验很重要。
作为我们董事，这也是产品验收啊。那我们差不多就可以走了。
好，期待。
怎么样？
好像专门来迎接我的。
这个颜色叫紫叶净瓷蓝，这个颜色是要用60个小时6道的打磨吧才能做出来，
是最复杂的一个，
非常复杂。
所以你知道最挑剔的我肯定要选这个颜色。
那我们就开始上车体验吧，车自动开的。
我来感觉一下，这一刻，
对，
哇塞，
感觉一下
这个高度，非常的
很优雅的就上车了，
很体贴，我自然就坐上来了。 就刚才上车那一瞬间就特别多的细节，不要小看了这个高度，我觉得这个高度非常的含蓄，特别的准确。我是穿着一条裙子，特别自然的就坐了进来，而是我今天还没有穿高跟鞋，如果穿高跟鞋的时候，还有更多很实际的尴尬的地方。所以我觉得刚才这一个姿势非常的体贴，这真的是一个迎接我的姿势。你说往往会被这些点打动，它的空间，它的友好度。上来我也觉得，
果然是手气体，
温度真的是不一样。
温度，你这个没觉得你的座椅有点加热的吗？
当然觉得
所有地方都是加热的，
所以我才有被拥抱的感觉。
拥抱的感觉。行，那我们就出去转一转啊，上海的城区。
偷得浮生半日闲啊，难得在这样的滤镜下看一看上海。
你看那边的那个纹，那是叫连前纹。
连前纹很美。
你看这些刺绣，整个这个车上20万个针脚。
哇，但是不觉得繁复？
你不觉得繁复？
只是觉得很精致，还用了很简洁的设计语言。
这个风影针木是就一棵木头从头到后是精心编排的，都是自然的肌理，
也是独一无二。
独一无二的。要让你用一个词来形容，你觉得现在是什么感受？
我觉得非常自在。
自在，
动静自如。
动静自如。
我觉得有足够的空间让我既可以完全的放松下来，很有治愈感。
这个其实就是我们希望有的一种感受，让我负责驾驶，让你再体验一下前排。当你的司机
太激动了，
太激动了。
这真是一辆让人无法忽视的车，
无法忽视，绝对无法忽视。
左边就是著名的武康大楼。
哦，你别说，要不是 Nomi 告诉我经常从这儿过，也不知道今年正好是武康大楼100周年。
谢谢你的认可，我好开心。
来，威廉，请你用最优雅的姿势让我转过武康大楼。
好，这是最优雅的姿势。那这完全是我们这就直接就过去了。
真是我们轻轻的就丝滑的转过来，我觉得真的是很奇妙的感受。今年乘坐 ET9的感受，我觉得确实它终于达到了我的要求，它不再是一辆车了，它真的是一个空间，我觉得我可以生活在里面。
谢谢给我们做体验官啊 ，CEO 啊，就首席体验官。
这个外形设计很时尚，
我们叫飞航车身
ET9，
我们把它叫做行政旗舰。
第一眼看上去还是这个非常的这个奢华型，对。
我们就上车看一看啊，
体验一下老板的感觉。
主要就是老板的感觉。
首先是这个非常这个宽敞，感觉有无边界的感觉。
先体验这个一键老板键，
是这里。
对，按一下。
哦，前面它就自动的把空间让出来了。
对。
哦，那这个就是完全是头等舱的感觉。
我们的设计理念就叫飞航头等舱。
因为 MPV 呢，我是经常做，它有很多这个不足，一个是速度它这个上不来，第二个有时候它还有个稍微开快一点，这个心里感觉不太踏实。
35个扬声器，双低音炮，音乐头枕模式啊。
这感觉像自己戴了耳机一样，音响是我开过的所有的车是最好的，不错。
纵览天地，四方得体，
感觉还是不一样。
看看这个小桌板，这个打开，
可以移过去。
你看我也可以用。
哦，冰箱是在这想，这个设计的也是很有这个。
它冰镇。从零下2度，果蔬、香槟、红酒，
对，
常温模式，暖饮。
你这已经比家用的一般用的冰箱的选择还要多。
一键隐私啊，
这又是有一种不同的感受了，也完全是头等舱的感觉。
连我们全舱的氛围都可以有好多氛围可以调，围炉夜话。
这个设计不错，我是第一次见到。这款车是远远超出了我的想
象。迎面扑来的豪华感，
我们的迎宾光凯，
贵宾的 VIP 的那种感觉，
科技旗舰嘛，
扑面而来的科技感，厉害。第一次见到电动车拉满的豪华感。
我们前面这个是一个5K 的48寸的一个
就这个长条是吧，
长条，我们叫 Skyline，它不光是显示一些必要的信息，更重要的是把整个座舱里面的氛围。
对，它不夸张不突出，但又恰到好处。所以这辆车其实也是一个超级计算机嘛，绝对拉爆了，
拉爆了。
那后面的话呢，争取卖更多的芯片给斌哥。
行，
确实是领先一代，我能感觉到这背后数字架构不简单，它非常具有情感的表达，它会成为你的伙伴，成为你的一个智能空间嘛。你这个就是科技跟人文的这个交汇点，十字路口。
超感空间，整个车上都会完全跟着这个来匹配。
就有一点像那种4D 影院的
5D，这很酷吧？
这是全主动悬架，
全球第一个全主动，
全球第一个，哇，厉害！
每秒1000次的这个调整，
架构和系统非常可以啊，这体验在别的车上没有见过，让我真正忘乎所以了。估计这个人就天天待车里了，这个身临其境的临场感，
对，
让我这个一下就进去了。
I'm excited.
Excited. Let's go.
I think it can give exceptional riding comfort.
Oh. I'm nervous, you know.
I don't smash the car. Ah, champagne test. I have to tell you, I have no experience whatsoever for a champagne drink. 4 layers.
4 layers of what?
That's impossible.
Impossible?
It's impossible. This is impossible.
好，可以了是吧？OK。Now it's your turn. That's challenge for 5 levels. OK， 阳光来了。OK， let's try.
Alright guys, welcome back. I hope you all also enjoyed that clip. But they also asked him, in fact someone said to him, well, Tesla and some of the European EVs are on the same level, don't you think? And this was his response.
La playa había subido la marea. Había subido la marea con triple paella. Y la encontré porque...
Alright guys, welcome back. And last but not least, I want you all to listen to what Mukesh Mahbubani, a genius, a modern day genius, had to say about China. And this is why the huge hedge funds in America, Europe, and Canada and pension funds keep buying into NIO and other Chinese companies in China. Take a listen, guys.
I'm really glad you asked that question because your question captured very well the Anglo-Saxon media's perception of China. And I would suggest to you very bluntly that it's a distorted perspective of reality. Let's take the first word you use, repression. If the Communist Party of China only relied on repression to stay in power, it would not create the most dynamic economy in the world, right? It is by far the most dynamic economy in the world. It has delivered the fastest growing economy for 30 years. And it has done this by educating the Chinese people to a level and extent that the Chinese people have never been educated ever before. And you say it's repression. You obviously are taking the old Cold War mindset. I was in Moscow in 1976, and I saw repression in Moscow. And when I was in Moscow, the Soviet citizens were not allowed to travel outside the Soviet Union. That's repression. In the year 2019, 139 million Chinese left China freely. Guess what? Zero defectors. 139 million Chinese, right? That's twice the population of the UK. Went back to China. So all your description, when you say environmental degradation, China's climate change policies are far more responsible than those of the United States, which has not once, but twice withdrawn from global environmental protocols. Kyoto Protocol, the Bush administration left 8 years. Paris Accords, Trump administration left 4 years. And you know what? The reason why we're having climate change today is not because of new flows of greenhouse gas emissions from China and India. It's because of what the Western countries have put in the atmosphere since the Western Industrial Revolution. Get the data. The single largest contributor cumulatively, right, is number 1 United States, number 2 Europe, number 3 China, right? And the West wants China to pay an economic price for the current flows, but the West doesn't want to pay an economic price for what it put in the atmosphere. You want to deprive the Indians of electricity when the United States could just, by the way, if the United States could impose $1 a gallon tax, that would save the world. Cut down gasoline consumption, raise money for investment in green technology. Simple solutions. And by contrast, the largest reforestation program in the world is carried out by China. It has already reforested an area the size of Belgium or bigger, right? So all your descriptions capture the natural distortions of China that you get in the Anglo-Saxon media, which violate the rules of the Enlightenment, which say that you must be rational, calm, and objective, especially in understanding your adversary. And if the Chinese were as stupid and as incompetent as you describe them to be, don't worry about them. But I can assure you, you are now dealing with a far more intelligent and rational actor that doesn't fit any of the Anglo-Saxon categories that you applied to them. Please forgive my bluntness.
Now you're putting words into my mouth.
My response to that, I'm glad you mentioned Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a very typical example of how the misunderstanding arises between the West and China and the United States and China. Now, I want to go back to my point about there are 193 countries in the world. And of the countries that are concerned about Hong Kong, I guarantee you, almost no African country is interested in Hong Kong, right? I do not know of, maybe except for Japan, any other Asian country that speaks out on Hong Kong. In fact, you mentioned India. In this book, Has China Won? I tell a story of how, I think in 1961 or 62, President John F. Kennedy of United States and Prime Minister Harold Macmillan of United Kingdom wrote a letter to the Anglophile Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, and said, hey, we understand you're going to invade Goa. Don't invade Goa, please. Let Portugal run Goa. I think within a week or two of receiving the letter, Nehru invaded Goa, took back Goa, and said Goa belongs to India, please. So in the same way as Nehru thinks that Goa belongs to India, Chinese think that Hong Kong belongs to China. And as far as I know, apart from the Western countries, in no other, out of the 193 countries in the world, take out the Western countries, the remaining countries don't say anything about Hong Kong. And also, this is another important statistic, only 12% of the world's population lives in the West. 88% lives outside the West. So in terms of your point about does China listen to opinions, I think the Chinese pay attention to the 88% figure. And I think that's what is missing in the Anglo-Saxon media, an incapacity to understand that 88%, the thinking of the 88%.
If you look at what China's actions are in the region, yes, they are moving forward on economic integration, but they've also been, you and I have debated whether the word should be assertive or aggressive, but look at their actions in Hong Kong. Look at China's actions in the militarization of the South China Sea. Look at China's actions on the border with India. Look at what China's, we can say whether they're provocative or not, but certainly China's actions went with regards to Taiwan. So where do you see the region looking at China versus the region, when I mean region, Asia ex-China looking at China versus the United States?
Yeah, I'm really glad you raised these points because they make an important point that I think all investors should understand. If you are going to understand this region through the lenses of the Anglo-Saxon media, you will completely misunderstand what's happening in East Asia because they have a very jaundiced, black and white view of what is happening here. I mean, you take the first example you mentioned, Hong Kong. It's such a big deal in the Anglo-Saxon media. Name me one Asian country that's saying anything about Hong Kong. As far as the Asians are concerned, Hong Kong was a British colony that was illegally seized by the British in the humiliating Opium War of 1842. China's are just rectifying a huge historical humiliation by taking back Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is just part of China, right? So that's the reality. In the same way that Goa is part of India, right? So it's important, therefore, if you keep reading the Anglo-Saxon media, you get a completely distorted view in what, and this is an important point again to emphasize, okay? That the world's population is 7.8 billion people. There are 1.4 billion people in China, 1.3 billion people in India, 700 million in ASEAN. And this is what I call the new CIA, China, India, ASEAN. These will be the three major growth engines of the world. And guess what? You read the Anglo-Saxon media, you'll never understand the CIA and what's happening in this region. And let me give you one statistic. Between 2010 and 2020, let me ask you a simple question. The European Union has a combined GNP of $15 trillion. ASEAN has only got $3 trillion. In the 10 years between 2010 and 2020, who contributed more to global economic growth? Was it the European Union or was it ASEAN? And the answer is ASEAN. And nobody knows anything about ASEAN. So what you have here in this region is a culture of pragmatism that is preventing wars like Ukraine that's going to drag down the United States and EU. You keep on fighting wars, we keep on trading. And the Anglo-Saxon media will never tell you that this is all happening in this region.
Alright guys, so I hope you all found this video, these clips, to be informational, inspirational, and motivational. If so guys, do not forget to hit that thumbs up because it takes a lot of time to do these videos and the editing. And if you haven't yet subscribed, you might want to think about doing so because in this channel, we have that warrior mindset where we're waking up the middle class for the first time to get a major piece of the pie from the ground level up. And like 50 said, we get rich or we die trying, guys.